Alrighty. Wow, to go after that. Ditto.
There you go.
No, but I want to hear from everybody. So, what is?
Okay, so we kind of discussed more about the foster care system, and before the child is getting to a family, the foster family, that if it's an infant, like they should go through physical procedures to see if they have any trauma. I think they already do that in medical. But when it's a child, preschool age or older, if the child would go through some type of psychological screening to kind of get a sense of where the child is emotionally, if this child needs more help, and because of their they have a rising psychopathology. What else? We also discussed support groups for the foster parents and also for the foster children, for the kids or teens to be able to go to these support groups and kind of vent, create friendships, and this would help with their coping, and also with the support groups provide resources where they can have recreational activities, music, therapy, something to kind of help them out with that. Let's see what else. Just education for the parents, the foster parents, with how to heal or how to help work towards healing a child who has gone through so much trauma. We were saying that a lot of times, like the foster families have like 5 or more children in a home, and I think like if they were able to have parenting classes where they can kind of promote communication, bonding, attachment, that would help the child later on. I think that's it.
And it does, all those things you're mentioning, the early assessments, and there's many, many assessments out there that have been created. There's a child abuse trauma scale, there's many others, but I think, I think all of you kind of touched on that. Some come earlier than others. Maybe there's some we need to do in different settings, and we need to do it earlier. And I know definitely DCFS, they have their own, MAD multiple multidisciplinary assessment team. There's and they're doing more and more of that. And because there's so much of this long-term stuff that we've been seeing, and particularly the mental health issue, what's been implemented now is they need to have a lot of this in place before the kids even are removed or go to another facility. They need to have them connected to resources and have a lot of these assessments done. But I think always evaluating the assessments, sometimes they're not done timely, sometimes they're not done regularly, and as we can see, there's some ongoing things that follow across their lifetime, and some of the cognitive things change over time. So I found with many of our kids, some of them, they haven't had assessments done for quite some time, and that seems a little odd to me, and they're still getting medications, and they're getting all these hosts of, and it's like, what? They haven't even had, why are they getting all this stuff, and we don't know where there's changes and what's happening developmentally. So it's, but that's more systemic problems. What you're saying makes a good deal of sense to me. We need to be doing far more of that. Jan, did you have anything you wanted to add on top of all of the other great ideas?
Sure. I went back actually to the beginning, I guess, what I consider the beginning. The stigma I think our society has, first of all, with mental health issues, and then / parenting issues, then / abuse issues. And I've had many parents, I kind of went from a more practical aspect. A lot of parents I've had over the years have depression. And their family does not understand. They just don't understand. And the parent is not able to go out and look for resources, find resources, and then implement whatever resources they can find. So I think that's a huge issue, just society at large has a problem with it. I think we need to really encourage more mental health options for parents. Daycare, social workers in the home, somebody mentioned group therapy type group settings, we can talk to other parents. Of course, money and time is a problem. Let's see, parenting information, free parent seminars, mandated seminars that are given now in parenting classes through DCFS and those kind of things. They're very limited to, you have to do so many hours, and the experience I've had with those classes are just a joke and a half. You know, the parent does not really get any practical skills, and there's no follow-up whatsoever. I think DCFS needs to be more responsive on all levels with parents. You get a couple good workers here and there, but I don't think they're doing a very good job. My own experience, I've worked in elementary schools, presenting kind of a boundaries sexual kind of information for children, and what the boundaries are, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And then we took it to the next level, and we did art therapy, and through that identifying some of the children that you could obviously see from the drawings were having problems. And then we were able to refer to a whole program to help these children. And that was so effective. It was wonderful. Also, another program that worked really well was working with teens. But again, there wasn't enough pregnant teens. But then there wasn't enough follow-up afterwards. There just really wasn't. It's one thing to talk about it when you're pregnant and what might happen, what you should do. But if you've ever been a parent, you've all had these moments where you're like, what in the world am I doing here? Why am I doing this? This is really bad. What can I do? I don't have any help. And you really don't have any help. So.
And more the programs that are being funded need to be evidence-based, and they need to have outcomes attached to them. So at least we're seeing that's evolving. It's still slow, but I know it is definitely in mental health. There's things that we did years ago that, we can't write it that way or do it, that we need to have measurable outcomes and track outcomes and look over time and follow up. So at least that's something that we seem to be, we're always a little slow on things, but it is moving in that direction. And definitely the mental health, you've seen the psychological impact is across all the different types of abuse, and you're right. And the one thing that we're really not looking at today that we'll look at next time, there's a huge cultural component that we're not really talking about today. Okay, and largely much of that stigma, particularly some groups more so than others, it's huge. So you even talk about mental health and psychiatric disorders, you lose, there's certain cultures you just lose people right away, that they aren't even gonna go there, with you. So, how do we, again, how would we reach those individuals, and how can we approach it differently or market it differently?
A lot of blame and a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Both one or the other, or both going on all at the same time.
And even with parenting and parenting education, again, there's a huge cultural element as well. So even though we want to make sure that's in there, there's a lot of Western type of ideas that we're really, kind of imposing, and that doesn't always feel good to people either. Especially when they feel like they're well adjusted, and you guys are trying to tell me that, how I was raised, even though it's vastly different, is somehow harming, or could be harmful. So.
Well, I think too, with budget cuts, from what I've been hearing through teachers with the school systems, class sizes are so huge, and they don't have, even my daughter works
the
in a special needs
resources,
classroom. They don't have the time or the energy to even notice
Yeah,
sometimes.
and oftentimes counseling is what's cut. You know, my sister's a psychologist at several different schools, and she hasn't been cut, you know, yet, but that's oftentimes what goes, you know, is the counseling component and all the things you mentioned with the impact of all the different experiences kids have in school. That's just significant, and just as another outlet for these kids. I mean, it's huge. So, but again, it's the mental health arena, the counseling arena, and that's sort of not as visible. So sometimes we don't really pay attention to it. God, all of these are great ideas. They kind of trigger more thoughts, and I'll get off track, but they're all. Alrighty, so what I'm going to get to is, this is just what we already noted, is, you know, of course we want to put prevention in place, right, because we talked about the huge impact of child maltreatment. It can be profound. Lifelong adverse effects, not to mention the huge costs associated with child maltreatment. So all the more reason that, yes, we want to eliminate it, at least, you know, reduce it, okay? So let's talk about child abuse prevention. I focused in on a few things. Strengthening families, which actually is kind of what the title of our whole training conglomerate here under First 5 is strengthening families, making families more resilient, and looking at how to put protective factors in place for families. Public awareness, supportive communities. Again, some of you were really going out that far and talking about, you know, hospitals and DCFS and, you know, foster care systems and all the different systems that families, parents come in contact with. And then talking a little bit about some prevention programs, what's available, which you're going to see some of it is kind of some of the ideas that you mentioned. Okay, so strengthen the family. What's in the literature on this has to do with 5 protective factors. Okay, these are 5 areas that if we focus in on, actually can really assist families in buffering the effects of stress that's on them. And so again, the idea is to reduce, if not prevent, child abuse from occurring. So nurturing and attachment, and I know you guys mentioned that, I heard that, you know, early bonding and nurturing and new parents and talking about early bonding and all of that stuff, and colicky, fussy babies and what's important about that early relationship. Nurturing and attachment, and for those of you who are going to be here in the afternoon, you're going to have several hours of attachment theory and infant mental health. This is a huge area, okay? More so kind of came to light within the last 15 years or thereabouts.